The empty chair technique is a Gestalt psychotherapy technique. It involves imagining someone being present, say in an empty chair, someone that you want to talk to, someone it's important for you to say something to. So a client might do this with someone who's living or dead, where there's something the client needs to get off his or her shoulders, something that needs to be said and said safely. The first time I saw this technique used was in a counseling class I took in my graduate training. A teacher described to us the technique, and then she showed us by saying goodbye to the second child that she was never going to have. So she apologized to the child and said how sorry she was, and she wished she could see the child, and it was all very emotional for her, and it was unusual for me, and so it stuck in my mind because that was a rare element of training for me. I did not think about it much anymore, and then decades later I had an opportunity to use the empty chair technique, and it came up when I gave a guest presentation, a guest sermon at a church service, and then afterwards a tiny woman came up to me and she introduced herself, and she was a professor at the same university I was at, and she asked if she could tell me about something that had happened to her, and I said yes, and she told me many years before her husband, to whom she'd been married for decades, had a heart attack, and she went to the hospital with him, and he was in getting treatment, and at some point a physician came out and talked to her and said, "I don't think he's going to make it. Would you like to come in and say something to him now? Perhaps say goodbye to him." And she was so overwhelmed with emotion, so scared of losing him after all these years, she just shook her head no. She could not do it. She could not go see him when he was dying. And so she stayed out in the waiting room, and he died shortly after that. And for years afterwards, she had felt bad about it. She had felt guilty, as if she had let him down. And so I said to her, well, let's imagine he can actually hear you now and see you. What would you say to him about this? Go ahead and say it as if he were here. And she spoke as if she was speaking to him, saying that she was sorry and she'd let him down, and she just couldn't muster her courage at that time, and she wished she had done it right. And so I listened to her, and I thought about what she said, and I said to her, all right, you knew him for 50 years or so. You knew him well. What would he say to you if he could speak back now in response? And she told me he would say, don't be silly. It was one moment, it doesn't matter. What matters is 50 years we had together, helping each other out, caring for each other. That's what matters. Let this go. Go on with your life. Enjoy your life while you have it. And I listened to her, and I thought about that, and I said, you chose a good man. Listen to it.